want to welcome you all to the closing session of the Overweb Challenge. This session where we're gonna share what we did over the period of the challenge. We've got a number of submissions, and each submitter is going to present for 90 seconds. So it's a very short elevator pitch, and then they'll field some questions from the group. And you can see that this is set up a lot differently than it was before. We had webinar. Now it's all of us in the same room, and everyone is encouraged to give comments and ask questions of your fellow presenters. This challenge was sponsored by the Forbes Funds and the Overweb Foundations. We give big thanks to the Forbes Funds for stepping up and joining us in this endeavor. Our partners are the Next Generation Internet Program from the EU, UMI, Accelerant, School, WeTech, Belgium, Edge Riders, Funding Box, and it was brought to you and brought together by Bridget.io and Noetic Nomads. So without any further ado, we can get started. And I'm going to pick Michael to go first with your 90-second pitch.
Whoa. That's what happens when you have two people in the same room. Let's try that. Sorry about that. Whoa, sorry. Grab somebody. I'm going to unmute.
Okay. Sounds good. How about the Accelerant team?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I'm going to start sharing my screen.
Okay. Let me know if you have any issues with that. And
All right.
There you go.
Can you all see this?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So, hello everyone. My name is Roshni. I'm a UX designer within Accelerant Solutions, and joining me in Accelerant's development team. And today I'll be showcasing a feature presentation of the Smart Embed tag that we are currently developing for Presence. So Presence is a platform that is implemented based on the Overweb patterns, like having a safe digital space, on-page presence, and on-page interactions, which allow users to engage with one another on the internet to share collected data, either publicly or privately. Presence has a feature called Smart Tags, which allows users to embed portions of existing web applications, extend web content with interactive embeds, and access features of other applications from other web pages that use Presence. From creating a developer account on Presence, registering an application, then getting access to the API to embed your application, we envision it to be easy to use for developers. Though this feature is still early in development, its potentials are countless, as it is a new way of annotating and extending content on the internet. So now I would like to showcase a use case of Smart Embed tags using the new Clubhouse audio platform as an example. So we are currently looking at Courtney's lifestyle blog, which received a good amount of traffic. She has used Presence for some time and realized that she can bridge her audience to her Clubhouse room using a Smart Embed tag. We can see the Presence badge in the corner, indicating that the platform is open and currently in use. When we scroll down, we can see that she's made bridges, annotating parts of her blog, and sharing them publicly. When we hover the mouse over it, at that point, a badge with the Clubhouse logo would appear, indicating that she's implemented the Smart Embed tag. And when we've clicked it, she can log into her account through the Clubhouse overlay, which then pins it to the page and shows her the live embed of her Clubhouse room. And we can join the room by clicking on it, and we can see everyone else in the chat room talking in real time and having the option to speak up, to invite friends, or leave quietly in the room. So that concludes this presentation, and the floor is open to any questions and or feedback.
Well, thank you so much. That's really interesting. I love the example with Clubhouse. It's such an interesting platform. Are there any questions from the group about this presentation?
I'll ask. It looks great. I love the idea and just the terminology Clubhouse. What types of interactions do you think you'll have with the people, with each other? What types of interactions do you think you'll kind of promote?
So these smart embed tags kind of promote just the ability to just interact with applications and web pages in real time on different platforms. So if there is a developer from
I can jump in. David here, I work with Roshni, and essentially the tags would allow you embed content from any website. So essentially all we do is we bridge your application on Presence, and so we display your application on Presence so people can interact with your application without having to leave their web page to see your application.
I get it now. Okay, very cool.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, then Clubhouse would be an application that was embedded through the use of the Presence.
Exactly. Clubhouse is currently an audio chat room application that's currently in this beta version. And all what we are doing is giving an example that if we were to collaborate with Clubhouse and their developers submitted an embed, we could technically just put it on our smart tag and you could be in a Clubhouse room without leaving the web page you're currently browsing.
Cool.
So kind of like how a YouTube embed works. You can put a YouTube video on any web page as long as you take the embed code and put it on that web page.
And the difference here is that you would, with the YouTube one, you would actually have to be the web page author. Whereas with this one, you could put the Clubhouse room on someone else's site or on, you don't have to be the web page author to actually use that embed code or tag on any particular website. So you might be the person who's actually hosting the Clubhouse room and be able to attach it to different sites on the web where people might be interested in that conversation in that room. Correct, David?
Yeah. Yes, correct. And like to add to that, a scenario is, let's say someone came up with a new application and wanted to discuss it on Clubhouse, and he wanted to, find an intuitive way or a good way to get traffic to that Clubhouse room or to his application. He can submit that smart embed tag and just intercept traffic from those websites and say, okay, since you're already using Presence on this website, you can as well just come straight to my Clubhouse room or to my YouTube video or to my blog or whatever content is embedded on the smart tag.
All right. Well, thank you, Accelerant. Great job. Michael, are you ready now?
Yeah. Whoop. It's always something. Okay, you guys can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. So I wasn't really sure if I was going to be doing a presentation because I wasn't able to submit anything through the form, but I'll do a real quick overview. Truth Filter, which you can find out more about on truthfilter.com, evolved out of technology that I developed as part of Knowledge Filter, knowledgecenter.com in the 90s, and was patented and licensed to Amazon for their reviews. If you see reviews that are pro and con sorted by agreement level, where the most highly corroborated argument on both sides rises to the top, that's the corroboration engine, which is the basis of Truth Filter. And the idea with Truth Filter is we actually sort of added some more layers on that, which is that you get a readout using color-coded links that go to the pro and con evidence and change colors depending on how highly corroborated arguments on both sides are, from warning red for things that are really questionable to green. We started with blue, but it was too political to do red and blue. So, or gray, which is things that are still gray area, and yellow for things that people are asking for, this army of fact checkers that we're trying to create to provide more information on. So the idea is that you can, if you find something questionable on the web or on Facebook or whatever, you can send it to Truth Filter, and the proxy copy is made, and the crowd is invited to submit evidence. It absolutely does not allow opinions, just evidence, either pro or con. And then the second layer is that people evaluate the evidence according to a ranking of evidence quality, which we're still working on that part because it's different for science. We originally had it more scientific, like the top rating was, double-blind peer-reviewed studies, and the other side, of course, is intentionally disseminated misinformation. So anyway, that becomes a weighting factor that further refines the color coding, and people are invited, and we're hoping to find a partnership in this crazy world of social media now, where like Mark Zuckerberg was saying he wanted to crowdsource the truth and immediately got attacked for that, because of course that was the cause of the problem. So we're thinking having an independent site that's just open to the public takes the burden off of them to decide who they're going to censor and whatnot. So that's kind of a nutshell of it. And we're looking for, we got a patent pending on this, only so that we don't just sort of lose all the development costs, not really looking to make money, just looking for a partnership and want to hand it off to an organization that's got some resources, or partner with people. I'm really excited about some of the things I've seen here, particularly Nick Adams's work that looks very parallel. I'm really looking forward to finding out more. So any questions? Sorry about that. That was over 90 seconds.
Thanks, Michael. Are any questions from the group?
That sounds amazing, Michael. I like your last name, Human.
Yeah, well, it's Hoyman, but
Hoyman.
I hope
Human works.
I hope to live up to the human tag.
Yeah, it sounds like that's a good strategy. So you had done this kind of before and licensed something to Amazon, and they used it to kind of sort. That was the part I'm just interested in what led up to this idea.
Well, I very early on, I was my friend Bill Atkinson, who some of you might know. He built the Mac and developed HyperCard, and I were kind of looking at the web as not being a publishing medium. This is back in the 90s, but should be more of a peer-to-peer. And this was before Facebook, before Wikipedia. So I ended up developing Knowledge Filter, which is, you go to knowledgecenter.com and see more about that. As a way to fund my real project, which was the Wisdompedia. It was called the Gnosis Project, Gnosis Knowledge System at the time. But then when Pedias happened, we changed it to Wisdompedia. But then when the fake news things, I mean, we get the video we made 3 years ago. It's amazing how spot on it still is 3 years later. It's just more relevant because fake news has risen to the point where it's not only threatening our democracy, but it's an existential crisis for the social media companies. So we're trying to, take this work that we've done and hand it off to an organization big enough to scale it, because it'll take scale for it to really work.
Thank you for that. That's amazing, just to hear the history there. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there one more question?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm curious about relating information between web pages. So if you have one page that's been assessed, all the assertions and facts are assessed in them, and then you have another web page that is maybe says the exact opposite. Is there any way for that information to cross-pollinate?
Well, the idea is it's similar to Genius annotations, if anybody's seen that, where you can create a layer over any web page. So you get an article, it could be on the New York Times, it could be on Fox News, and then you send it to Truth Filter and it's evaluated, and it's a layer over it. So when you click the Truth Filter button, then the annotations show up in color coding, and you can actually drill down and see the actual evidence behind anything. And the idea is, it's not about opinion, it's about information, so that you can then compare the pro and con arguments and make a decision yourself based on your own values, which is a big question. Is there a truth in terms of what's corrupt and what's not corrupt? Is socialism better than, these are all subjective things, but there are facts. There is, what do they say these days? You can make your own opinions, but you can't make your own facts. So that's the idea. So the cross-fertilization would only happen if people were sent another opposing page to it. And of course, you'd look at it, and if the preponderance of evidence was negative, it would glow red, you know, in a lot of things. There might be a couple of greens where somebody, you know, a lot of times you get information where there's just enough truth in it that people resonate with the truth, and so they assume that the assumptions in the rest of the document are accurate, and a lot of times that's one of the ways that people are deceived. But the other part I didn't really mention so much is the idea is it can train people in media literacy and critical thinking, because you're forced, if you want to be part of this army of fact checkers, you're forced to evaluate the evidence according to widely accepted ways of looking at reliability of information. And you have to, you can drill down if you don't know what like editorial versus news content is. It'll give you examples and tell you more about it. And then you can say, oh yeah, that's what this is. And so you learn, the idea is to educate the public.
Awesome. If anyone wants to find out more about Michael and Susie's project, you can go to truthfilter.com. There it is. Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much. You might want to put it in the chat as well.
Will do.
So, Liam, are you ready to do your elevator pitch?
Am I doing one? I was just coming to support Nick, but I'm happy to share some of my stuff. I work on a project called LifeScope, which is a digital memory technology. I work on it's essentially a tool that collects everywhere you go, everyone you know, everything physical and digital in the world that you create or consume, physical objects that you own, and it builds this digital memory graph by going through all of your devices, all the services you use in your web browser. To build you this digital memory. And I just won a grant to be building a personal companion AI built on this platform. And I'm signing a formal relationship with Tim Berners-Lee and the MIT Digital Realities Group to do this. Yeah, working with Nick on education tools as well. So yeah,
Cool.
I'll drop some in the chat.
Yeah, it would be good to understand how the technology you're developing could be used on or extended onto the Overweb as well. So that might be a conversation that we can.
Yeah, we're an open toolbox. The Overweb seems interesting. I'd love to see a specification or an SDK that would something I could sink my teeth into. But conceptually, I love what's going on.
Awesome.
So.
Liam. Whoa.
Okay.
Sorry.
Turn down now.
What's going to happen to the data? What's going to be your agreement?
So this is just an open toolbox that anybody can download and use. If you go to our website right now and sign up, we build you your own sovereign database. We build you your own data structure. It's all end-to-end encrypted and column signed to you. Only you can access your data, but it's all open source. You could actually just go to our website, download the software, host your own digital memory personal database if you wanted. We're moving it all over to solid data pod standards probably in about 3 months.
That's really cool, Liam. We're investigating with the Overweb to have some kind of personal digital memory, and the important piece for us would be that it be able to essentially use in your own personal AI with it. So if you could have your own personal artificial intelligence and
yeah,
your own algorithms and tune them yourself, that becomes really interesting.
So I have about 9 inference models and about 5 models trained up on myself to do mimicry and prediction. One predicts where I'm going to go. One that's a heat map on a map, a physical map. One's a differential histogram of what I'm going to do next. I have a couple chat-based agents that predict what I'm going to say next. I have some ocean analysis, emotion assist stuff that I've done that's not so good in my opinion. But the chat stuff and the differential, the predictive histograms and stuff are really good. Yeah, we're just chewing on whatever's state of the art. We bring it in if it's if we can get the license. So
Liam, can we have your email address?
Liam?
oh sure, yeah, I dropped it in chat. Oh,
Thank you
I only
very
send
much.
it to Nick. Oh my god. Yeah, there you go. Uh-oh.
All right.
There.
So,
I'm in chat with Nick. There you go. Yeah.
well, thank you. Thank you for connecting in. Let's see. So who's next? Fasa, are you ready?
Yeah, in like 30 seconds, probably. I think I'm
Okay.
rounding up this last slide right now.
All right. We'll move on to, so are either the Knicks wanting to present?
I can present. I got stuff.
Okay.
Can you, how do I share my screen? I just hit share. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Here we go. Share. All right. Can you guys see?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna blaze through this for 90 seconds, but I'll post up a video which has a longer explanation. So anyway, dude, I'm super inspired. Just excited to see those APIs from Bridget in school. I don't know how to do those umlauts or whatever those things are called over the school, but yeah, great work to you guys and everybody here that I've heard so far, and look forward to hearing everybody's. So anyway, 90 seconds, go. So Overweb definitely is, I love the concept of Overweb. I love the concept of spatial web, just the ideas of metaverse and Oasis. I honestly kind of feel like Minecraft does it the best. You know, they're just not an Overweb, it's just its own kind of universe. And so I'm making this thing for a while called super reality, which I would love to integrate, you know, Bridget in and all those things. And we don't think of ourselves as over anything. We think of ourselves as in between. We can project information into the digital world, but also use augmented reality to layer it over the real world. And, you know, we're spatially agnostic. We're 2D, 3D, VR, augmented reality. We kind of think of ourselves as an Earth operating system with like a juicy game center and all the things that kind of you need in an operating system. So I think we're the first spatial browser. We sit on top of everything, and we use computer vision to see the screen, and we can project a artificially intelligent UI on top of anything. And we do this right now at the start to teach people with. So kids, adults can learn how to use MS Paint. We also have kind of figured out with the spatial browser that we can hyperlink from anything. So the same concepts of like a game engine uses, we use, where instead of using images and text, we can use any event in reality to basically trigger something else to happen, from a facial expression to a GPS coordinate to even like a brain wave. That's what we're working on. So, and then yeah, Liam's super into AI. So we love the idea of being able to use AI to kind of do like a spatial sentience for stuff, and have plants and animals talk, which we think that's an amazing use for Bridget, and being able to annotate things on top of plants and animals, and kind of define what is a truth about those things and cite sources. And we're also really working on giving people superpowers, and of course that would be sense making. We think that's an amazing thing. And what I mean by superpowers is like IoT type stuff, and using tech to augment people's senses and things like that. So yeah, we're open source, decentralized. We believe in agile development, crowdsourced, transparency, data sovereignty, open collective. I don't know. And our big meta goals is don't let the technology destroy us. Don't cross the streams, and we're trying to make tea Earl Grey hot happen. So I don't know. I probably hit 230 is what I'm thinking. So there you go.
well, thanks, Nick. It's
Sure.
really inspiring, and I totally can see how this connects with all the things that are happening in the Overweb with Bridget and school as well. So you definitely have the right intuition with it, and be very interested in having follow-up conversations over the next couple of months. Does anyone have any questions for Nick?
Well, I just have a really.
Oh no, the
Not
echo.
again, not again. I just have a really silly question of the
I
Earl
like
Grey
silly.
tea, because I'm very curious about that, because I just found out that Earl Grey tea, because of the I think it's called Bergamot mint, has DMT in it. So I found that very interesting. What's the connection to Earl Grey
I've never done DMT, but I dropped a lot of acid in high school.
tea? Never did.
I don't think I can do DMT anymore. I'm good. It's like George Carlin says, once you find that frequency, you don't want to change the channel, man.
Yeah. Well, you've got it in your brain already, so you're illegal.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
All right. Any questions? Any comments?
Yeah, I had a quick question
Oh, good.
to mobile. I'm really curious. Would this be like a native app? How are you thinking about this?
So we're kind of going to have to support everything for like for Windows and Apple. Our thing is an Electron browser that sits topmost over anything. So we're not like integrated into a plugin structure for a browser. We actually are able to sit on top of the entire interface. But so when you're on a computer, you need that. But for mobile, we will just be a URL. So you go to superreality.com/app, and we've already got working training and object recognition. In theory, we've seen it. It's not like perfect yet, but we've seen the tests that we've gotten it working where we can do object detection inside of the browser. So you'll just open up your phone, go to superreality.com/app or whatever it's going to be called, and now you're kind of using the camera to do that. And we hope to, be able to use the same thing for Apple glasses or Facebook glasses or whatever comes out. You'll just go to superreality.com. Kind of like, when you go to Microsoft, when you install Windows, you boot up Chrome. It's one of those things every download that we definitely want to be this thing where when somebody gets those glasses day one, they're like, well, what do we do? I don't know. Superreality.com has a whole bunch of content. Let's go there. So that's the plan.
Awesome.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. So if I understand that correctly, it would live in browsers, so Safari, Chrome, on web essentially. It wouldn't be
so
an
on
Electron
top of browser on like PC and Apple, and then for like phone, for phone, I think we could do in browser, but we might need to do something like we might have to have an Android version. That stuff is blurry. We're kind of just focusing on PC and making it work there, and we'll expand out after that. So
Thank you.
Sure.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick.
Sure. Thank you.
Fasa, are you ready?
Yeah, I can go. My screen real quick. I'm using my phone, so might be a little bit okay.
All good. We know you're a noetic nomad.
Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Let's see if it's gonna pull up here. Is it showing up?
We're not seeing anything, or at least I'm not seeing anything. It's a gray screen.
It's not hidden for me either.
There
Let's
it
try
is.
this one more time.
We're seeing something now.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to present mode with it,
Yeah, it's not.
which maybe it doesn't work.
You could just step.
All right, I'll just go through regular.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, yeah, so Dipper is the name of a company that we've been working on for a little bit now. It stands for Digital Personalized Health Response. We're working in partnership with the Forbes Funds to empower resilient communities to be data sovereign in the digital world that we live in currently. Data sovereignty for us, we believe that, smarter communities should mean smarter people. As pertains to the personalized digital health ecosystem, everything is really siloed right now, and that presents a lot of different problems for these different stakeholders. The researchers the researchers right here are people who make a living discovering, testing, and innovating through evidence-based methodologies. But that siloed data slows progress. There's a lack of interoperability. There's low reward for collaboration, and communities are passively involved in they're passively involved in the process. And then you have the health and wellness professionals, which are the subject matter experts who make a living curating the use of the different products, goods, and services that are in the marketplace to the specifically targeted communities that, based on that research. But the problem is that even these people are people, that the health and wellness providers. So there's bias, there's a lot of tradition, which can stunt growth considering just the dynamism of the human environment. Like everybody is different. Basically, one size fits all approach to health isn't what's going to work in the future for us. And we can see that happening now. Brands and influencers, these are the innovators and marketers who are essentially consuming, they have people consuming their different products, goods and services and stuff, but they have a very transactional relationship with the community. It's really about treating everybody as a consumer, but not recognizing their humanity. There's predatory marketing tactics using algorithms and everything else from people on the web. It's customized and not personalized marketplaces. And then there's low accountability for those products and the type of value that they're bringing to the community. And then last but not least, you have the individuals, which are always seen as consumers. And when people make health-related decisions, they depend on the researchers, the health and wellness professionals, and the brands and influencers to help them make, to help for them to bring meaningful value so that they can make smarter decisions. But the problem is all this misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation that exists everywhere when we access technology. And it makes it harder to be a smart consumer if you don't know what's real, what's fake. So the sense making is disrupted. Looking at the Overweb platform, on the bottom level, you have a base network of public and private researchers that are building bridges. They're building these bridges based off of connecting the academic research and the published articles and stuff with this database. The next level up is the Credentialed user contribution system, which is curated by. They're basically curating a nuanced health data profile, which I'll explain in a second. Then you have a certificate, and that would be the health and wellness professionals doing that. Then you have the certification overlay, which is the brands and citizen researchers, where now there's brands would become more accountable as their products now have a line of sight with the data that consumers accessing the Overweb tools are now empowered to express. And then on the top layer, you have the general public, which it's more of like a gamified feedback loop where structured and unstructured populations and data sets and stuff can now be, that data can now be made actionable. An example of this would be the like creating portals for these different stakeholders to be able to access this ecosystem, this layer of the Overweb that has all of this, the information ecology and this data, having more context and everything. So health and wellness professionals, based off the products that they're recommending to people, and this could be anything, it could be even a movement, whatever, like that stuff needs to be personalized and allowing for the technology and the data to say whether something is good for somebody or not is ultimately what needs to happen. In doing this, we'll be creating a new health ecosystem where now there's data interoperability. The consumers, the health and wellness professionals, and the brands are beholden to the research that's out there that's been hidden away in silos that now is being made actionable because of our use of the Overweb. What that does is it creates a health data ecosystem in which anybody that's creating health-related content on the web is now fueling this layer of information that's growing almost exponentially. It's an open source, cross-market, nuanced health data profile that grows as data and communities accessing it become smarter. And we already have a few partners that have patented technology, allowing us to be able to use AI in a way that doesn't treat everybody as consumers, which is something that needs to happen. And when you have a application, when you build applications off of things like this, then you end up with things that are pretty cool, where you could put if somebody wants to go shop then you could select the store that you're going at, and then use a smart filter as the overlay becomes a green light, yellow light, red light by the products, goods, and services that fit you or don't fit you based off of that profile. And then another example, I think I just finished this slide a few minutes ago. So, looking at how the Overweb pattern would work in terms of when people are just searching the web, the presence browser, you could essentially allow for content to be filtered. So if I'm looking at something, I can know if it's something that is going to be beneficial to me or not be beneficial to me. I could be on the same page as my nutritionist while we are learning things together, and my nutritionist can see if my thinking being made visible and my sense making, if I'm on point, if I'm equipped to make more decisions or better decisions. Will I need you tomorrow or will I not? And I think I'm going over my time, but that was it. Does anybody have any questions?
I got one, just something for you guys to add to it and think about. My wife paid for, I don't know what it is, but it's like some genetic thing where it told me, oh, GenoPalette. It tells you what foods you should eat and what you shouldn't eat. Like for me, I should eat these types of vegetables and not these types to maximize my health and everything based on like my genes. And partnering with stuff like that and just giving people the best sense making for how they can maximize their health. I mean, I don't want to have to think about any of that stuff, man. I just want that green light, red light. That's
yeah, no, you're right. Different people have different things. Some person might care about their blood type. Another person might care about, CRISPR or some type of genetic sequencing event. But in reality, the research should be saying like, I wouldn't mind doing the blood type thing, but exactly how much research is out there to really validate that that's even something that makes sense. And then is that research?
I don't know. That's why we get Michael, man. Michael comes in there and he figures out if it's real.
Right, exactly.
You got to put all that together. It's like, is this research? Is it support? I don't know. Let's. Anyway, good job. Thank you, man. That's awesome stuff.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Faza, I just think this is a really cool project. I put a little comment in the chat there, but I think the big challenge in this space, and I say this speaking as a sociologist who's done a lot of very intricate expert content analysis. The big challenge is, if you have a ton of people who are everyone takes their own little surface level opinion, and you put all those together, you don't necessarily have the deep and accurate sense making. So what we've done is created a tool so that you can take an expert analytical procedure. So you're analyzing this content and you're analyzing its relevance and applicability to these different end users in a way that's really systematic. You can go back through and you can check statistically that there's accuracy and reliability in this process, and you're getting really good information because it's an excellent system you're proposing. You want to be aware of that garbage in, garbage out problem.
Yeah, what you're saying makes total sense, and we look forward to any type of collaboration that would allow for to be able to filter the trash even while we're filtering the trash. It's going to be an endless process. The goal is, I didn't really focus too much on the one of our partners, but they have a patent on the ability to encrypt data down to the last bit, which would allow for that, and being able to embed that data to make that data smart. So the goal is that, hopefully there's some automation that would probably use some of what you're talking about to allow that AI to do some of that sweeping for us, hopefully. But that's a very strong point, and look forward to connecting in the future.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Yeah.
I just had one question, Nick. So what you were saying there is you can look at that post, and if I understood you right, you can trace back that person's history to understand their confidence level. Is that what it was, what you were saying?
Not exactly. What I'm saying is that if you're analyzing some blog post with health advice, for instance, right. It's not so much about tracing the author of the blog post and figuring out their credentials.
But the idea?
that's something you could do,
Right.
but you can also really dig into the ideas themselves.
Wow,
And
that's so cool.
let me show that actually, if we have time, David.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a, I have a company that makes it possible. What the software does is it'll take you have your analytical procedure in your head, like you're an expert, say a general practitioner. You've been doing it for 20 years, and you've been reading all these health blogs for 10 years, and you can like see through all the garbage in those health blogs. That's great for that one person, but how do we get that expertise out of that person's head and into a community in a way that many different people can see what the expert sees?
Right.
And that's what we do. That's what we do with TagWorks. So we'll take the expert analytical procedure out of an expert's head and turn it into an assembly line of simpler tasks, just very, very simple analytical tasks that people can be trained to do, within minutes. They don't become an expert in everything, but you have all these little micro experts, and when you stitch it all together, you have that expert analysis. So I can show that. I'll go ahead and share my screen and show you how we do this in a different context around misinformation. And I think, Michael and Susie, you might find this interesting too. So we have, can people see this public editor website?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're launching this right now. We kicked this off in 2015 before fake news was even a concept, or a popular concept. And here I'm just going to show you some articles that have been run through the public editor system. So imagine you have a news feed, and right next to each article, you also have this credibility score. So this is out of 100, just like in the schooling system. And we know this is probably a really bad article because it has a 54. If I hover over this, I see there are a lot of reasoning problems. There's some language issues, etc. And if I click on it, when I look through here, I can hover over, let me make sure this is working. Sometimes I have to refresh this.
I get it. So it's like a confidence score, but with many different levels to it. You're using the sunburst.
Yeah, there are over 40 different argumentative fallacies, cognitive mistakes, inferential mistakes that we find in these articles. And this is a process that's completely systematized. So we start with an article, and then we triage the article. This takes about 15 minutes. It's done in parallel. And then there's another set of tasks that people do to really drill down and find the errors in the use of evidence, reasoning errors, biases in the language, misuse of probabilistic reasoning. We find the different arguments in the article, and we find how they're relevant to the overall point of the article. So if there's an error in an argument, but the whole point of the article is to point out the error in that argument, the article shouldn't lose any points. It's actually doing a service. If there is an error by some quoted source, the article shouldn't necessarily lose credibility points if the article's purpose is to point out the error in that source. So the task looks something like this. I'm showing you this task, this semantics triage task. Someone goes through and they find the places where there's any evidence. Oh, here's some evidence, here's some probabilistic reasoning. And the goal here is not to make a judgment, just to pass this stuff along to other people. And there's stuff up here about like a politician being cult-like, which seems a little strong. So I'm going to highlight that stuff. And that's one job in the system. Now that work, if I click save and next, it gets sent along to another set of people. And here we are, we're looking at this task. I highlighted that stuff about someone being cult-like, and now that stuff is what we're focusing in on. And we have a series of questions that are really going to drill down. And it looks like there's some exaggeration here with this cult-like stuff. I'm going to go ahead and highlight to justify my answer. And the other thing that happens is, based on what I ask, based on what the person answers, we see more questions appear.
Do you have subcategories? I noticed that emotional
Yeah.
one you just had in there. Do you have subcategories within those?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm pointing out in this moment, is that based on how I answer this question, I will get follow-up questions so that I can drill down deeper and deeper. So the annotator is doing the most in-depth annotation you could possibly want, but in the most efficient way they can possibly do it. So instead of answering 15 questions for this task, they might only answer 5, but they answer the 5 that are really relevant for the task. So it makes it possible to drill down into content that can be quite complex in a very systematic way. The other thing that we're doing is, with each of these tasks, you have multiple people doing it independently.
Right.
We're automatically finding the agreement, the statistical agreement among them. So the results of this are like, you can publish them in top journals in social science. We know that for certain because we took this whole system to Sage Publishing, which is the global leader in social science methods. And they said, yeah, we believe it'll work. And in fact, we want to give you money. So this is a publishing company. They're not an investor. They're not a VC, but they went ahead and invested. So.
My head hurts from how cool that just was.
Agreed. Yeah.
Oh my God.
How long does it take for one article to go through the assembly process?
Well, that's the really cool thing. If you count it up, in the minutes of work that's done, it's like, because you have multiple people doing each task, it's like probably something on the order of 200 work minutes. But those things are done in parallel. So the first stage takes 15 minutes, the second stage takes 15 minutes. So you can fully vet an article in a half an hour. This information comes out a half an hour later. We're already correcting it, and we're sending those labels and those credibility scores around the web as well as we can. Yeah.
How do you send them around the web? What does that mean?
Yeah, right now we have a browser extension for Chrome, so that if you're say at the New York Times website and the article has been vetted by a public editor, it'll kind of flash and click on it, and then you get to see the labels. Another way that we want to be doing it, though, is to have a community of people who are kind of finding the misinformation conversations around Facebook and Twitter and elsewhere, and can kind of interject links to these articles. Yeah. And the final way that we're really excited about implementing this is there's some language in Section 230, some of you might be aware, that suggests that it's a policy of the US government to encourage these interactive service providers, these platforms, Facebook and Twitter, to allow for third-party filters. So as a Facebook user, I should be able to use Public Editor to filter junk news out of my newsfeed. I should be able to say anything that scores under a 70 or a 75 or whatever threshold I pick as a user should not show up in my newsfeed. So that's where we're headed with this. We've just in the last few months gotten it to production grade. It was a long road of building the prototype and then turning it into something production grade. And now we're really working on our community and how we're going to disseminate this.
Well, amazing stuff, man. I mean, I think, getting the crowdsourcing, maximizing that. And I mean, I like the idea of like aggregating the scores of like, this person keeps on constantly getting low scores in their post. It's like, okay, and he just said something to me. It's like being able to just know right off the bat, like, let me have my spidey sense up on this person who has this horrible credibility score, already. There's a lot of interesting stuff there, man. So, I mean, I got to ask the elephant in the room though, like is everything, all those, the scoring, can you drill down into like the lowest bits of it to kind of sniff out like where those scores are coming from and who's giving those grades?
Yeah, so we're in the process of building like the UI that allows you to do that, but there's full provenance on all this data. So at least on the back end, I can see that, it was these 5 annotators. Not only that, we're already implementing a system that checks for the aggregate kind of performance of each annotator.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
So if you do really well on gold standard tasks and you're almost always in agreement with what turns out to be the consensus answer, you have a pretty high reputation score in our system. But if you're like constantly getting the wrong answer, you don't have a very high reputation score, and your responses won't be weighted as much in the overall consensus algorithm.
This is
I get it.
fascinating.
I mean, I think you would also though benefit, any annotator would benefit from what Michael Human was talking about with like, naturally by annotating, you start to understand, those things better. It's an educational process, correct?
Absolutely. And I admire what Michael's doing. I think we have very similar kind of philosophy, and it looks like we've thought about a lot of the similar stuff. I see David is holding holding up his finger, and we might be going over time.
Yeah, we just need to, I think there's a couple other people that want to present, and definitely Nick is really interesting. You're doing Overweb applications already, and we hope that your data will be made available on the Overweb as well, so that anyone who has access to that layer will be able to go.
Everything is open source. Everything is, everything.
So I will say this: we're doing 1,000 news articles in the next 2 or 3 months, and we're sharing all of those labels with the research community. So everyone who's interested in trying to better understand this information, almost everything we do is open and transparent. There is some of the core technology that's not like, we can't give away the code because we tried for years to fund it as an open source project, and we're like dying. We're like barely paying rent. So,
okay.
I do want to make just one comment. I'm thrilled that you have addressed that thing I brought up yesterday, Nick, about the look and feel of a thing, that it brings it more into kind of the real world. I love that wheel where to me, it feels like I have access there. I don't have to be a brilliant mind to go in and understand. And that is beautiful.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all.
Thank
That
you
was
all.
a lively conversation. Want to just check in. Who else is presenting? Nicole, are you presenting? Or okay. Any and then I think James, are you presenting?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, let me just check. Is there anyone else who's intending to present today besides James? No. Okay, James, you're gonna take us on out.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. So let me see, how do I want to do this? So let me share my screen. What I'm interested in, there seem to be a lot of people interested in annotating web pages, and really what I'm interested in is bringing those essentially references or annotations together in one document, which includes all of the assertions and evidence that different people are including in a conversation or a controversy, so that people who disagree with each other can come together and have something to look at, so that they can basically build a shared reality with each other. You can see this, yeah? I can't hear anybody. Can you see my screen?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so the problem that we have is the public can't come to consensus. So at this point, it's pretty conspicuous that the public is being told different pieces of information. This community gets one reality, this community gets another reality. They're pitted against one another. They view each other as perpetrators or dangerous to the republic. The power struggle escalates over decades. It transforms from political power struggle to physical power struggle, which can predictably be, predicted to escalate as well. So the problem is we actually never get on the same page. We never actually create a shared reality, and we never have a moment to cool off either, I would say. So that's the problem. The solution is actually communication, right? So it's similar to a couple. I do a lot of couples communication coaching, and if you get two people who really want to communicate, even though it's really hard for them, they use certain techniques. They don't use blame, they don't get emotional or reactive, things like that. We need that kind of a conversation in like a, in an online media kind of a format. And so where we now have overlapping shouting matches that really don't create a shared reality, they actually bring realities apart. We need to have a document type that brings different voices together in one document, so that we can kind of compare notes with each other in our everyday lives. And we can actually also present the strongest evidence to the people who are not acknowledging that evidence and insist that they acknowledge it. So that's kind of the mechanism to bring people together, to force people to come into the center, so to speak, from the edges. So building a shared reality, giving ordinary people the power to easily do something that's meaningful to challenge disinformation. That's what we're doing. So the solution is actually to organize the Overweb annotations into argument maps. And I wanted to show you what an argument map looks like in case you don't know what it looks like. It's this. So we have a claim on top, and this is made up of 4 con objections to this. So true or false, nothing was open in DC on this certain date. And this was asserted by a newly elected representative from Georgia. And there were a lot of people on Twitter who, including Representative Justin Amash, who said that it was a lie. And so there's, gyms that I found were open. I found the DC, official DC site that said that businesses were welcome to be open, things like this. But this person never has to acknowledge this information, which contradicts what she said. And the thing about it is, these are all cons, but she could come in and give some pros to support this assertion. Maybe I don't know why she said it. Maybe she has good reasons for saying it. I don't know. But it's a way to basically, if we can crowdfund a challenge to her, so we can get a long attention span on a situation, we're not getting into a power struggle. We're creating a collaborative situation. And we just want her input. We want her to tell us where we're mistaken, because right now it certainly looks like she's lying and she's a member of Congress. We have a disinformation problem. We want to weed out the disinformation agents. She looks like a disinformation agent. She can come and let us know where we're mistaken. So that's kind of the energy of it. But we present assertions right next to their strongest rebuttals, right? In neutral language, we include the original voices and the original sources of material. We don't get people to mischaracterize or take things out of context. We actually invite the people to speak for themselves. We track who is making assertions. We track who is not acknowledging important evidence. And we allow the people to crowdfund challenges to get those people to acknowledge the strongest evidence against them. And so, unfortunately, we live in a reality, in an information system that's basically characterized by the active measures process. If you don't know what the active measures process is, I beg you to learn what it is. Basically, one of the techniques is deny, 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 even when the truth is obvious. So if you have the President of the United States commits, asks a foreign leader to interfere in our elections, you simply deny it, and you constantly deny it, even though the truth is obvious. And so that's a tactic that's used against the American people to create these 2 different realities. So, the money to crowdfund allows the people to create a long attention span on an issue, right? So we have like 9/11, millions of people believe 9/11 was an inside job. Millions of people believe vaccines and autism are related. Millions of people believe that climate change is real. Millions of people believe climate change is not real. So these things never get resolved, but with money, we can actually start to create a voice for the people, the tens of millions of people who believe these things and who are uncomfortable, who do not have an outlet, do not have any choices in terms of how to make the world a better place or to get their needs satisfied. So the use cases would be, I compare notes with my in-laws. I go to Thanksgiving, my mother believes, or my in-laws believe Trump is XYZ, I believe something different. We have a place to go and we can see the evidence on both sides. That doesn't exist today. The public can see who isn't acknowledging the best evidence. The public can challenge disinformation agents on Twitter and check to see whether there are any open challenges to the New York Times or to Fox News or to Sean Hannity. And what are the strongest arguments? What are the strongest reasons that people are asserting that Sean Hannity is a disinformation agent? We need one document where people can come together and see that. We don't have that right now. So that's the strategic advantage, is these documents don't exist. There's no document in the entire world where I can go and I can look at it with my mother, who believes that Barack Obama was not born in the United States, and I believe he was born in the United States. And we can go and we can look at all the evidence from both sides, and we can see the rebuttals to all the points, because we've asked, the originators of those assertions, the originators of that evidence, to come and participate in the collaboration of the document. And we center ideas instead of people, right? So everybody has a voice, but they're all spokes on a wheel, and the wheel center is the idea itself. And the next steps is we need all kinds of help. We need thought leader communities to come in and verify all kinds of controversies around climate change, or whether there was collusion or evidence of corruption in the Mueller report, you know, whether we were lied into the Iraq war. You know, there are many, many incredibly important conversations and controversies which create our reality in our lives. And we need thought leaders in those communities to come forward. We need money, we need designers, user interface people, coders, all kinds of help. That's it. I'd love to hear people's impressions and if they have any questions.
It's beautiful, man. Yeah, really great.
Have
I
you,
can't hear you very well. You're kind of breaking up.
Go ahead, Foster.
Nick,
yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, so what are your thoughts on that just from a user interface standpoint? Like, how would you see, is this like does it look like a document, like from a user interface perspective?
yeah, so I wanted to say, right, so the argument map rectangle that I showed would be a perfect inlay for the presence container. So people would go to see a snippet on a web page that was disinformation. It would be colored a certain color, and then they would right click on it and they would see that argument map open up so that they could see what are the strongest rebuttals to this, or what is the strong supporting evidence to this. And if there were people like the author of the page that they were looking at who was conspicuously ignoring evidence, then they could immediately create a crowdfunding challenge, or they could support a crowdfunding challenge against that author and that publication, so that, you know, again, people on Twitter can have a way, or their ideological enemies, their political enemies, can have a way to push back on them and remind them over and over and over again in public spaces, kind of semi-public spaces like Twitter. You know, this is an outstanding challenge to your credibility. We'd like to hear what you have to say about it. I hope that answers that.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
A very interesting platform too. It sounds great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, James, thank you so much for that deeper dive. I now understand more about what you're doing. The funding part is awesome. You've probably already thought of this, but a lot of people in the media are talking about how when misinformation is published and then like a week later they publish a correction, the damage has already been done. And of course, you know, lots of examples about the, you know, Trump Commission and all that. We found out like months later that we were given wrong information, but by that time the damage was done. Be interesting to figure out how you could address that time gap.
Excellent, excellent. So there's actually a great example of that, which is Lou Dobbs said that basically the election was full of voter fraud, and then he was threatened to be sued by one of the manufacturers of voting machines that was used in Los Angeles County. And in a response to that, they basically did what the voting machine company requested, which was they ran a piece about how there was actually no fraud at all. But like everything else, it kind of gets dropped into the Orwellian memory hole, right? We never go back and revisit that, but the damage is done. So what do we do?
We have so much, you know.
We have one page where Lou Dobbs is the topic, and we have all the challenges to Lou Dobbs's credibility, and you can actually see the decades of disinformation that different characters have engaged in, along with open challenges that never close. The money is always there, and the invitation is always there to correct the record. And in this case, we can make an argument map laying out the reasons that we believe that he lied about that, and we can invite him to, you know, let us know where was the breakdown in his original reporting that he didn't do any fact checking at all. So anyway, there's interesting conversations that can create a catalog. And so any public figure with the Overweb, you can actually select and right click on anyone's name or any you know, publisher's name, and you can see the open challenges to their credibility. And you can see how much money there is, how many donors there were,
wow.
how long it has been open, and you can participate in them. Yeah, so.
I think what's really interesting about that is because you can't stop the speed and the velocity of information. Once it's out there, and then it hits the media wheel, the media cycle, and then it's gone. And then you're right, somebody could come and you want to, well, we're going to retract that, but nobody's reading the retraction. It's already kind of out there in different communities. But I'm hoping that with the browser, with what you're just, adjacent and in line with what you're saying, that if an article or something gets published right away, I'm seeing in real time that whoever wrote it, there's a number of challenges, and then it's not maybe penetrating as quickly. So maybe it's not to slow the speed of information, but to increase the speed of context would be another way of looking at it. I really like what you're saying.
Well,
Yeah, thanks.
I just want to say I'm so grateful to just be in this this group and to know all you guys exist in the world. Yeah, I mean, it's just the work that David, thanks for putting this on, and just seeing your work, James, and understanding about argument maps. That's something I really didn't understand. And Nick and Michael and everybody you shared. Just seems like we're all trying to skin this same cat, and all need a little bit, figure out a way to get a little bit of funding to put it all together. There's a lot of good here. So yeah, amazing stuff, James.
Poor cat. Yeah. Poor cat. The cat's got 9 lives.
Does the cat even exist? I don't know. If we put him in a box, we don't know. We'll find out.
Right. So I wanted to say one more thing is the funding is really important. Obviously, there are two things that the people here, I want you to let you know that I have a patent pending for crowdfunding the creation of argument maps. So I think that those two are the crux of what's needed. And, if you want to participate in that, there's all kinds of opportunities for that. The other thing is so many people are working on this annotation technology, and I would love to get a hold of an API I could use to import assertions that different people are making. That's just to populate it with information so we can create argument maps based on those assertions would be really helpful. So all kinds of collaborative opportunities.
Yeah, I think David, you started something here, man. We got to get a group of superheroes together.
That's good. Yeah, this is just the seed. So I'll be sending out some emails that we can talk about how we want to move forward as one or more different groups. It sounds like there's definitely one that wants to collaborate on truth-oriented issues. And, maybe we end up sending a letter, the collective of us, to AOC's Ministry of Truth, if that idea even goes anywhere. But
there's a Ministry of Truth?
Sounds scary.
Apparently,
I thought we were trying to create one.
Michael, you had some information about that?
Yeah, you can Google it. She's proposing that right after the 6th. She convened a group in Congress to try and solve the problem, and they're calling it the Ministry of Truth. And
oh wow, I did not know about this.
Yeah, they're begging for technology. So
oh wow,
you guys that are already implementing should really
sounds so Orwellian.
It does. There's agreed. It's but whatever, branding happens later. They're just getting everybody together is the point,
Yeah, absolutely. So the group has formed. I'll send out some information that will allow you all to connect. We have a Discord channel that we're just launching right now. I'll put that in the chat, and we can go from there. I think this is just the beginning, and I'm really appreciative of all of you showing up and sharing your ideas. It's been fascinating, and I think there's a lot of people who didn't know that they were thinking about similar things. I certainly didn't realize there were so many people thinking about similar things.
I think when you drop a pond in the or drop a pebble in the pond, that's a good thing you did, man. That's awesome.
All right. Well, here's the Discord channel that we're launching today, and that will be a place that I guess we'll put up a channel for truth or something of that sort, and we'll all be able to at least be able to be in touch, or at least you'll know that that's where there'll be some conversation and you can connect with each other there. I'm sure there'll be some other channels as well, and we'll evolve it as it goes. But once again, I want to thank you. I want to thank the nomadic nomads who partnered with Bridget to actually host this. We have Edge Writers, Next Generation Internet Funding Box, Accelerant Solutions, and who else is a partner? Let me get that up. But I want to also really extend a big thank you to the Forbes Fund. The Forbes Funds were our major sponsor for this event. The other partners on the event were UMI and WeTech Belgium and schools. So we have a constellation of really interesting organizations coming through. I encourage you all to check out their websites on the overweb.com front page at the moment. And is there anything else I want to say? Well, thank you all to those who submitted, those who were here to witness, everybody who participated in this challenge, whether a panelist. We had amazing panelists. Thank you, Nick, for being part of that. Thank you, Fasa, for being part of that. We had great moderators. We had an amazing collection of people coming through, asking questions and providing feedback to me and to the rest of the team on the website. So once again, I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to everybody who participated. This was not a one-person event. This was a 50-person event in terms of pulling it together. And we will be doing something similar. I don't know if it will be exactly this format, but we're going to be continuing to build this movement, this open source community, and we're really excited to continue building with all of you.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks, David. Thanks for bringing us
everybody, take
together.
care.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.